Hello, dear ones. Father Peter John, coming to you from All Saints Orthodox Church in Bloomington, Indiana. Christ is in our midst. We celebrated this week our father among the saints, Moses the Ethiopian, also known as Moses the Black. He was a bad guy. He was a slave, but in Egypt, he was such a immoral man that he was sent away by the slave owner. They didn't want to have anything to do with him. This is about 1,700 years ago. And so he became the leader of a band of robbers, and they were extremely violent and murderous, and just they would just do whatever they wanted to do to get whatever they wanted. I mean, they were just really bad guys. So one day Moses gets chased down by this band of torch and sword wielding angry men who he'd been terrorizing, and he flees to a monastery where he hides out and ends up discovering Jesus there in the monastery, and realizes that this is how he wants to live his life as a Christian, as a monk. And so he becomes a Christian. Well, it seems that Moses has this challenge, this struggle with the demon of lust, and it won't leave him alone. So he goes to his spiritual father, Saint Arsenius the Great, and he says to him, "I'm having this trial, with this demon of lust, and I can't get it to leave me alone." And so Saint Arsenius says, "Okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go and fast, and when you do eat, never eat until you're full. Don't fill yourself up. Just eat what you need, and then keep going." And so Saint Moses goes, and he does this. And after a time, probably a year or two, he comes back to Saint Arsenius, and he says, "It didn't work." So Saint Arsenius says, "Okay, I want you to add to that keeping all-night vigils, standing up." And so he goes, and he, in addition to his fasting, begins keeping all-night vigils, not sleeping, at night, not sitting down, not lying down, but standing up and praying all night. Well, he does this for a period of time. It's a year or two passes, and he goes back to St. Arsenius, and he says, "It didn't work." So St. Arsenius says, "I want you to add to this that in the middle of the night, while you are fasting and while you are praying and while you are standing, that you will go and you will bring big stone jars of water to the old monks who can't go and get their own water. I want you to supply their water." And so he did this. And time goes by. It's now been 6 years since he first went to St. Arsenius and asked for help. And he goes back to St. Arsenius and he says, "It didn't work." So St. Arsenius prays for him and miraculously heals him, cures him, casts away this demon from him. By the grace of God, protects him from this demon of lust, and St. Moses is delivered from this particular trial. Well, St. Moses goes on to become so holy that in his old age, he's actually forcibly taken by the monks and made a priest. They wanted him that badly. He didn't feel worthy. He didn't think he was anything special. He wasn't a spiritual leader. He was an unworthy man who would call himself the chief of sinners. But the others saw the light of Christ in him. So he was ordained a priest. He ended up giving his life in martyrdom at the monastery. When the bandits came to rob the monastery that he was the abbot of, he refused to leave. He stayed there with his monks. 6 monks stayed with him, should I say, and they all lost their lives that day for Christ. I just want to point out a word of encouragement, that 6 years of doing what he was told by a miracle-working saint, St. Arsenius, 6 years weren't enough to deliver St. Moses from this passion of lust. All of us have things that we're tempted with. We call them in the church the passions, anger or jealousy or vanity perhaps, or whatever it might be. And so we have to decide on the front end to be patient, to trust God, and to recognize it probably won't be an overnight fix. But in the midst of it, we're learning obedience and patience. And by the way, we're learning to be patient with others who might also struggle from long-term passions like these. Christ is in our midst. He is and ever shall be.